Okay, continuing on with our demonstrations of KPIs, let's go back over. And we're back over here into our instance of Dashboard Designer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here into my KPI folder, and I'm going to select that. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to do a new KPI. And again, blank KPI or objective KPI. Actually, we're going to use the blank KPI template again. And we're going to come through there and we're going to say OK. And now I've got my KPI up the same as before. Now I'm going to name this KPI Leaf 1. Now, if I don't fat finger it, I will. And there I've got Leaf 1. And if I move over to Properties, you can see it's got Leaf 1. Let's go ahead and put it into a display folder. I'm going to browse. I've got my KPIs up here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new display folder, and I'm going to call it Leaf, just to distinguish it, and we'll say OK. And now I'm in the KPI folders under Leaf, and again, we would normally add a property and a description, the person responsible and a description. But we've got Leaf. Let's go over to the interesting part. Now this time we're going to come through and we're going to take a look, and we can change the data mappings. So actual down here, and we're going to compare that to the target to the metrics. Let's go in and take a look at data mappings. We're going to click data mappings, and now I'm going to click change source. Now the source I want to use is this OLAP cube. If I can get it to select, there we go. Notice I could also use another KPI, but we're going to use our OLAP cube. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to say OK down in here. And now it's select a measure. Remember, measures are things that have the ability normally to be summed, such as head count, sales, defects, etc. So I'll pull that down. Where did these measures come off of? Okay, I'm using SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm tied into my OLAP database in Analysis Services into my cube operation. There's my cubes down here, and I'm looking. Let's go into Sales, which is where I really want to look. And I'm coming in and I'm looking at Sales down here, which is a perspective under Operation. And here's my Sales cube, and if I expand out my measures, here's folders, and expand out Sales. Here are the measures: sales amount, sales quantity, etc. Calculated members, exchange rate members, sales quota members. So here are the measures that I'm looking at. So when I tie into this cube, it's coming back, hitting the cube, and retrieving all of these measures, such as sales quantity. And for laughs, let's just right click and add to query. And there you can see the integer that comes on back, which sums up by default, when I designed this cube, the measures. So let's go back over, so now you know where they're coming from. And so now select a measure. I'm going to pull that on down, and I'm going to just select sales amount down here, and that sounds fine. Now I'm down here, and at this point I could put a dimension in there and do a slice in there so that I could say sales amount by product or whatever I'm going to do, but I don't want to do that at this time. And I'm going to say OK, and that brings back sales amount 2010. Okay, so I'm bringing back in my data mappings from sales amount. Now if you remember, now of course you don't, up here my sales amount, I realize this is hard to see, is about 53 million and change in here. So now we know where we're at currently. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the target from 1, which we are obviously hit. Let's go in and change it to 60 million. And I'll say OK. Now again, if I do this set scoring pattern, everything's the same here. We're doing sales amount, so we want more sales. Increasing is better. Next, and I can do the same as I did before. Let's just, for demonstration purposes, change the icon down here to, we'll go with that. Worst value, so remember what I talked about in there, the worst value, we'll leave it at 0 in here, but your worst value would be whatever the MBAs come through and tell me is disaster central. And now we'll come through and we'll finish it, and we've got that. And over in Properties, and here we are, Editor. Remember, if I want to see it, the KPI, I'm going to have to go in and create a scorecard. So let's do that. Right click scorecard, new. Scorecard, I'll say analysis services, and that's okay. And here you see in the scorecard, I could come through and do some filtering right in the scorecard, which I'll cover later on when we're in the scorecard section. So next, yeah. So that's just, don't worry about that error. Now I'm going to go select KPI, and there's Leaf KPI. Come on. Okay, and we'll just go next. I can add filters. We'll cover this all in scorecards. And we'll go next, and we'll say finish. All right, there's my scorecard. See the different indicator I have up in here. The actual is, I screwed that up. The actual in there is at 12 million. I'm not sure what how we're getting that off of there. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I pointed the metric into a different indicator as I looked at down in here, because I've got I looked at sales quantity. I should have looked at sales amount. Here, let me show you, because I know you won't believe me. So let me delete sales quantity, sales amount, right click, add to query. Boop, there's 12 million. Cool. By the way, that's fairly important. Notice how easy it is to fat finger these stupid things. And when you're coming through and creating these KPIs, all this stuff over in here, you want to go back to the data source and browse in so that you're sure you bring in the right amount. Naming is also very important. So now I've got sales amount, new scorecard, but let's go back over to Leaf 1 and change some things so that it's better to understand. I'm going into properties, and I'm now going to call this sales amount, and it's off of sales cube. You know, if I wanted to do that, and we can say sales amount, sales cube, I'll just call it sales amount. Make it less confusing in here. Go back over, there's sales amount, and let's save everything. All right, notice I lost all the little pencils, which indicate that I've saved it. Now back over here to new scorecard, I'm going to go into properties, and I'm going to name this Leaf, just so I've got it. And display folder, it's already in scorecards, and that's fine. So you see, Leaf is down here in that scorecard. And if I wanted to put it in its own subfolder, I could browse and expand this out, create, and I'll call this Leaf. Okay, and now I've got, as I move off, you'll see the different properties. And now I've got the Leaf scorecard shown here. And here's my actual values, my 12 million and my target. Let's go back, because now we don't like that target, and change the value. So we're going to go back over to sales amount, editor, 60K, and let's goose them a little. So let's say 11 million. Let me say okay. And now I'll come back over to Leaf, and I'll call update. All right, and now we've got 11 million down here, and actual is 12 million. 11 million is my goal, so I'm still in good shape. But let's do one more change to show you that it'll work. Let's down here, and we'll go fixed value, and now we're going to say our target is 17 million. Oh, gnashing of teeth. Now we call update in here, and well, if I didn't fat finger it, you see what I did? I didn't put in enough zeros down here, right? So I've got 3, 6, 9. Oh, look at that, man, much bigger. But you can get the idea in here. I should have put in a much bigger number. 3, 6. I should have put in 9 zeros. All right, you get the idea. Okay, let's go through and create another KPI. So now I've selected the Leaf KPI folder, subfolder, new KPI. So now it'll automatically be positioned in there. I'll go blank. Okay, and we'll change the data mappings. And now I'm going to change the source, again using my cube. And now we'll come in and we're going to select the measure. And this last time we selected sales amount. This time we're going to select sales discount amount. And we'll say okay. And now we've got sales discount amount. Let's go in and look and see what that is. So back over in my cube, right click sales discount amount and add it to query. And now I've got that. There's a bunch of decimals in here. And I've got 9 digits before the decimal. So let's go back over to our KPI and we'll open this up. Let's expand this out a little if we can. Just a second. Okay, now we'll go in here and we'll go into fixed value. And as I remember, that was like 12 was the first 2 digits, correct? 20 was the first 2 digits. So let's come down here and we're gonna 20 was our first 2 digits. So that was discount amount, and this time we're gonna set 17, and there's 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I think. And we'll say okay. Set scoring pattern. This time we're gonna come in here and say decreasing is better. We're gonna say decreasing is better because this is the discount amount. We want to discount less on sales. And we'll come down here and I'll take, let's do a little different indicator down here. And this time we'll just take, there's little, enter worst value again. And we'll finish on out there. And now I'm going to change the name of this KPI to discount amount. Come over here and I'll go sales discount. And you can put in some kind of a description, the standard stuff down here. And now let's go back over to our scorecard. Here's our scorecard, Leaf. All right, and we want to get the new KPI onto this scorecard. So I'm going to come in here, and if I can resize this so you can see it a little better. Here in the details, I'm going to expand out KPIs, and here's my performance point content. Remember, I'm pointing into the document list up on my default BI site. If I have multiples, there'll be multiples listed. Under KPIs under Leaf, you see the advantage of the folder structure up in here, because you'll end up with, I've worked where we've had thousands of KPIs. Of course, I had no concept if any of them really made any difference. But I'm going to take sales KPI discount amount, and I can right click on it. Nothing's going to happen, so I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to drag it, and watch when I get into somewhere that it likes. Next sibling sounds fine. So now we're in there as sales discount. I'm going to call update, and there we go. All right. And I screwed up again in the numbers in here. So that was 204,000, and I messed that up. So my God, yeah, I guess we've given away the company. All right, so you can see how it worked though, and that's what you do. You just go back and forth. But now you see you can just drag and drop these on over, call update, and you automatically get the changes. All right, let's create one more KPI on the Leaf. I'm going to right click in here. I'm going to go new KPI. Blank KPI, and I'm going to pause a second and configure it, and then I'll come back through and show you what I did. Okay, I've created a new KPI, and so far I'm bringing in sales amount. This KPI right now is a clone of sales amount. As a matter of fact, I could have gone into sales amount, right-clicked it down here, and copy it and pasted it back in, which is probably a better way to go. But I just wanted to come in and do it like this so I could show you this. Now I'm going to get down there, and I'm going to go new actual, actual to, new target. See, I can create one KPI that has multiple indicators in here. Okay, now what we're going to do is I've got actual. This is, obviously we're developers. Actual is, this is base 0. And so this is now actual 1. If you're a citizen developer and you like to start things at 1, then that's fine. Us developers hate you for that, but that doesn't matter. So now data mappings, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to change source, and we're going to go into the same OLAP cube, select a measure, and again we're going to go sales discount amount, and I'm going to say OK down here like this, and now I'm going to come over to the properties, and I'm going to call this sales amount in discount. All right, and it'll be in the Leaf folder, which is fine with me. Back over to the editor. Now I'm going to come down here into my scorecard, back where I was, and see here sales amount and discount, the KPI that I created. I'm going to grab that and drag it over here and look for my sibling pop up. Next sibling is fine. Sometimes this positioning is a little ugly. There you go, thank you. And now I'll come in and I'll call update. All right, and as you see, as I pull this on across, what I see by default is my row, which is sales amount and discount. Here's actual and target. But what is missing is this target down in here, target 1 and actual 1. Remember where I went in and added in these values. So let's get that in there. Back over to Leaf. Now if I expand out metrics, there's actual and target. Let's take actual. We're going to take it over here and I'm going to drop it to the right of the existing actual. So now I have actual 1, which if I expanded that out, you'd see it. That is, you can see this down there, this column. It's not quite formatted enough. And now I'm going to take target, and I'm going to drop that to the right of it. You see target 1, and now I'll call update. And I've got down in here now sales discount. I now have in actual and actual 1. As I come down here and read this, this is a screw up in here. Let me just a second. Okay, what I did there was I grabbed actual and dropped it over here instead of actual 1. So now when I call update, this one KPI down here comes down and it's got multiple actuals and multiple targets as it comes on across. So you can decide whether you want one KPI to come across like this or not. All right, so here we have 2 KPIs showing us that information, else we have one KPI coming down and showing it. And that's a design preference, the way you want to come through and do it. Notice the difference is whether you want the data to be displayed in rows across or in columns coming up and down. And frankly, that depends on your end users, how they want to see that information. And now I'm just going to save all. Okay, and in the next demonstration, we'll come through and we'll do a composite KPI.